I've been testing the CMF Watch 3 Pro, a value-priced smartwatch, for a little while now. It has a reasonable amount of hype around it, claims a lot of features, but at this price point, can it deliver? Let's check it out. Okay, so the bottom line up front, because I know some people don't want to watch the whole video, and I get it. I was pretty impressed with this watch, what it delivers for the price. Very few quirks and very few features omitted for where it sits in the price range. I'm going to get into it and I'll talk at the end about who this watch is for and who it's probably not for. But like I said, my general thought up front is I like it a lot and I was pretty impressed. But let's get into the specifics. First, when it comes to the design, guys, I think it is a lightweight, so it doesn't really weigh too heavy on your wrist. And I think that the look is very nice. Comes in 3 different colorways. I got the gray one. There is a silver and there is a orange and black. All of them look slightly different, but obviously same screen size. 22 millimeter band, easily swappable. So if you got 22 millimeter bands or you want to get a 22 millimeter band to swap it out, easily done. Single crown and button, no other exterior buttons except for that one. Obviously it's a touch screen, so that will give you more navigation than just the button. In general, guys, I like the look. It's not too masculine, not too feminine, kind of sits somewhere in between. And despite a pretty good sized display, a 1.43-inch AMOLED display, it does not wear like a huge monstrous watch on my wrist. I think the 350 milliamp battery kind of comes into play with that. And that's the reason why it is so lightweight, or at least so lightweight feeling for me. Remember, guys, my wrist is probably just under or at 7 inches. So if your wrist is smaller, bigger, whatever, that'll probably help you kind of decide if this watch is going to be right for you. And like I said, with 3 different looks, it's pretty nifty and you can kind of customize it in that regard. The previous generation had swappable bezels. This one does not do that. There were several complaints about the previous generation. I never tested it, so I started this one with a clean slate. But overall, guys, I like the design. The display seems somewhat washed out compared to some of the more bright AMOLED displays out there. And I think that it's probably pushing somewhere between 600 and 700 nits of display brightness, which is not super bright. If you look at some of the higher end watches, they're running 2,000 to 3,000 nits. I still found this visible under sunlight, but not anywhere near as good as some of the others. So keep that in mind. But overall, I like the design. Let's talk about navigating through the various parts of the watch itself. If you press the crown, you're going to get the list of all the apps, and you can use the crown to scroll through them, or you can use the touch screen itself. Either one is good to go. Pressing the crown again gets you back to the watch face. If you swipe down, you get the quick menu where you can have like do not disturb, settings, flashlight, brightness settings, blah, blah, blah. If you swipe up, you get notifications, and swiping left or right just brings you through widgets, which are configurable through the app. So if you would rather change them up, you don't like what you've got, like in terms of exercise, sleep duration, playing music, recent activities, you know, your steps, things like that. But navigation's super straightforward. When it comes to the apps list, man, it's super standard smartwatch stuff. Exercise is the top, and if you go into exercise, you have all the common ones. You can change the order of them through the app if you wish. Swiping back to the right brings you back a screen. So your custom running coach, exercise records, heart rate, blood oxygen, active score, activities, sleep, stress, essential news, which you can configure through the app yet again. You can do voice transcription, like if you have an idea and you want to record it on the fly, good to go. World clock reminders, phone call. If you go into phone call, you can do recents, frequent contacts. You can get a keyboard, so you can make phone calls through this very easily. Music controls, remote camera, weather you set up, breathing, voice assistant, stopwatch, timer, alarm, calculator, calendar, flashlight, find my phone, settings, user guide, blah, blah, blah. It's all there. It's all the standard smartwatch stuff. If you want to change the watch face, if you hold it, then you can swipe across to different ones. And it'll only hold 6 on the watch. If you want to trade them out in the app, you can certainly do this. through the app, but you have to take one of the watch faces that's on here off to put another one on. There's over 120 in the app. Anyways, that's the navigation. It's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. Guys, when it comes to the smartwatch features, I think those are pretty well fleshed out. You can take and make phone calls through this. It's not hard to do. I thought the sound quality was reasonable on both ends. My wife did not love it. She said she could tell that I was on something different besides my car or on the phone itself. So there's a little bit of lag when it comes to that. You can receive notifications, and the notifications from apps are configurable. So if you don't want every single app sending you notifications, you can pare those down. You can see your text messages. You can respond to them with canned responses, which you can change or edit. That's probably Android only because Apple kids, but I think that may change next year. One of these days, Apple's gonna have to let people into its world, but right now, Apple gonna Apple. But understand that when it comes to the general smartwatch features and things like timers, alarms, calculator, voice notes, voice assistant access, all that is there. So if you're looking for just a general smartwatch, like something that handles those tasks, this is definitely gonna do it for you. Oh, I mentioned it before, but there are over 120 watch faces that you can get. You can only store 6 on here, but there's a bunch more in the app, and they all have different settings. So if you want to change the color schemes, you can do that on several of the apps or on the watch faces, which is pretty cool. I don't mind the default color schemes, but some of them give you some pretty good options. Guys, the phone app itself controls most everything for the watch. I found it relatively easy to navigate, and it's straightforward. It's 2 tabs. One's my devices and the other's my fitness. So you just pick which one you want to get into. There's a little bit of overlap between them because I think some of these things blur together, but I found that navigating in the app was pretty relatively straightforward and pretty easy to understand. I didn't really run into anything that kind of crushed me. Some of the settings on the app are different than the settings on the watch and vice versa. So you're probably gonna have to go back and forth a little bit to get the watch configured exactly how you want in terms of everything else. So it's not like, you know, when you're dealing with like a Samsung watch or a Google watch or an Apple watch where those settings are a little easier to get to either through the phone or the watch. You gotta pick and choose just a little bit. Guys, when it comes to sport watch, I wasn't expecting a lot. I thought this was more a lifestyle watch, and I was really kind of shocked. There's over 100 sport or activity modes, and I found them all to be, at least the ones that I need, readily available, and I could get to them. When I was in them, in terms of tracking things like my heart rate, GPS, all that stuff was spot on. The GPS, not quite as good as your high-end devices like your Garmin's. I wouldn't expect it to be. Garmin's in a whole nother class when it comes to GPS. But the GPS tracks, when I got back and looked at it in my app, they were where I ran, and I could see where I crossed the street and then crossed the street back in a few instances. So in terms of granularity, it showed me pretty well where I went. The heart rate tracking was a whole nother level. I was shocked at how good it was. On a run, it was easily as good as my Garmin Fenix 8, which is their top gen heart rate sensor. When I compared it versus a chest strap on a Peloton ride, it was dead on with that. So much so that I suspect, although it would take me probably another month or two's worth of testing, but I suspect that the heart rate sensor on this thing might legitimately be better than the Garmin. I know that on some other people's tests, the Garmin's kind of factor in mid-pack, like 80-90%, not like 91+%. But I was, in general, pleasantly surprised with the heart rate tracking on this thing. The one thing I'll tell you, you will notice a lack of swimming or anything like that in the activity modes, and that's because this watch is IP68 rated, good for washing your hands and casual splashes in rain. Not good for swimming, not good for hot tubs, showers, high pressure water getting sprayed against it. I think that this watch is not going to put up with that. So if you're looking for like a multi-sport kind of triathlon, like long swims kind of watch, this is not that. I don't really think that that was the market they were going after. I don't think that there's a lot of crossover in that regard, but just be aware that the water resistance is not going to put up with anything really, really serious in that regard. But overall, guys, I was really pleasantly surprised with the sport modes or activity modes, what they gave you. Oh, I should also mention, it does calculate your VO2 max, When I compared it versus my Garmin, they were dead even. I don't know that Garmin's the best when it comes to VO2 max, but I think it's pretty darn close. If you want to know such things, you really got to go hit a lab and find out. But, you know, the fact that it kind of equaled the Garmin after I ran with it, I thought was pretty freaking cool. One last thing also, there's no altimeter or barometer. So if you're looking for that, this is not your jam. There's no ability to see maps, navigation, or even breadcrumb trail on this watch. So if you're looking for a backcountry sport watch that is more an adventure watch, this is also not that. Once again, I don't think this is the market for it, but just be aware you're not getting any of that. When it comes to general health and wellness, you've got a lot of different metrics like stress, you've got breathing. So if you want to do like a breathing exercise, it's got you. Obviously, heart rate tracking is always there, blood oxygen level if you want to turn it on. I didn't bother turning it on. The sleep tracking I thought was pretty darn good actually in terms of when I went to sleep and when I woke up, it was within 1 to 2 minutes of my Garmin when I slept with both of them on. It does not call sleep stages as light sleep, deep sleep, and REM. It calls them as REM sleep, core sleep, which I think is their equivalent of light sleep and deep sleep. The numbers weren't radically off from the Garmin, but I take any wrist-based sleep tracking with a grain of salt. I wouldn't really read that much into it. I will say that it does give you a sleep score if you scroll all the way to the bottom. Every time I did that, the sleep score was a little bit optimistic in terms of the number. I was like, I don't feel like I really slept like a 92 or a 97. I felt a little more like a 70 to 80. So for some people that might actually be good, might make you feel better about yourself, but understand the sleep tracking was solid, but not like super top tier. It's definitely decent. In terms of overall health and wellness, I thought it was good. In terms of step tracking, when I run my Garmin, I think that it is optimistic in terms of step tracking. Like I've literally been at a stove, standing perfectly still, cooking, and then my Garmin will go, hey, congratulations, you just finished your step goal for the day. When I compare counted steps on this versus the Garmin, I think this is about 20% shy of that. So that tells me this is probably more realistic in terms of actual step count versus whatever Garmin is doing. I forgot one other thing when it comes to the sport watch. Calorie burn on all of the activities that I did, I thought was reasonable. In terms of runs, it was actually quite low compared to my Garmin, which might be even more realistic. When it came to indoor bike and all the other stuff, the calorie counts are very similar. So I think that, you know, you can't really rely on any external device to give you perfect calorie count, but I think that it's a good tool. And I think this is in the ballpark for that too. So good stuff there. The battery life is interesting to me. If you run it default, like you don't change any of the settings just from the box and put it on, you're probably going to get close to the claimed 13 days of battery life. I think that's probably legitimate. It is a very small battery, which is one of the reasons why it's so lightweight, 350 milliamp. When you start turning on all of the sensors and the AOD and everything else, and then you go out and do a bunch of GPS activities, your battery life is going to hit the toilet, like to the tune of 1 to 2 days. And that's what I saw under really heavy use with the always on display going. When I turned off the always on display but left kind of everything else going, I still wasn't doing blood oxygen, I started to see over a week. So the battery life can be anywhere from almost nothing to darn close to 2 weeks, depending on how you run the watch, what you do, your lifestyle, all that stuff. But be aware that there is a wide variance of what you can get out of the battery. The good news is it charges relatively rapidly. At one point I had it down to like 40% and I charge it back up to like 99% in the span of about 35 minutes. I think if you let it hit all the way to rock bottom and you wanted it all the way to the top, I think that they cite about an hour and a half, which seems reasonable. So even if you do run this thing hardcore with all the stuff going, recharging it out, you're going to have a reasonably charged device again. So it's not going to get in the way of your sleep tracking or your other activities. So it may be a concern based on what you want, but just be aware that's my experience with the battery life. So look guys, let me talk about the pros and cons real quick, and then I'm going to talk about who this watch is for, who it's not for. One, the pros. I was reasonably impressed with the display. It's not going to be visible from other planets. It's not that bright. But for the amount of cost on this watch, the display was pretty good. And at 1.43 inches, it was reasonably sized. The amount of features on the watch are pretty impressive, especially at the quote value price point. I was really kind of shocked at the number of features, how well they worked, and how well they were integrated. Navigating with the watch is pretty easy in terms of getting to what you want in the watch and making it happen. I do like the crown and it rotating. I'm a big fan of that in general. Not every watch out there has it. I know a bunch do, and somebody kind of savaged me in another video and said, oh, there's a lot of them that have rotating crowns now. I get it, but I'm still not seeing them on enough watches. I would like to see more of that in this smartwatch slash sport watch universe. I realize that for a lot of watches, it probably opens up a venue for water intrusion. And so there's maybe a durability factor. I don't know. I like rotating crowns. Sue me. I like the pros. For the cons, like I said, the battery life, probably not as good as some watches, but not bad. GPS is okay. It's not brilliant, but it is okay. And like I said, the colors on the display sometimes look a little washed out to me. So who's this watch for? If you just want a smartwatch that looks like this, like, you know, and I think pretty nice, that this kind of fits your vibe, your aesthetic, and you want a smartwatch, this could be for you, no lie. You're not really giving up a lot when you get this versus some that cost 2, 3, 4 times, maybe even more. If you are just wanting to dip your toes into the smartwatch pool and you're not looking to spend crazy amounts of money, you just want to, hey, what's all the hype about? Is this something I want? This also may be for you. But even if you're an experienced smartwatch slash sport watch person and you like how this watch looks and performs, I think you could definitely do way worse. I like this watch a lot. I'm probably going to add it to my list of recommended watches at various price points because I like it a lot. Now, who is this watch not for? If you're a very serious athlete, probably not. Like if you are a multi-sport athlete, an endurance athlete, especially a hardcore endurance athlete, somebody who wants some level of track back or navigation on their wrist, not for you, no way. If you want a very high-end, tightly integrated with your smartphone watch, also not for you. You're going to be having to look more at the Apple or Samsung or Google universe to do that. If you're looking for ultimate durability, like you're going to go wrenching on cars and banging this thing around, or doing adventure races or Spartan races or anything else, once again, you're probably going to demolish this watch in short order. It's really not designed for that. But in general, guys, I think overall a neat watch, and especially when you consider the price point, I say extra neat. I'm pretty impressed. Guys, I'll end this here. I'm not going to go any further. It's probably taken a long time to get through this, but I did want to be pretty comprehensive about it. Guys, if you like reviews on gear to include wearables, knives, flashlights, sometimes firearm shooting content, occasional fitness content, please do those YouTube things like subscribe, hit the notification bell. Guys, I really like it when I get subscribers, and it means a lot to me. Some days I'm feeling a little down, and then I see my subscriber count go up a little bit. And guys, it really just, it warms my heart. You know, I take what victory I can. Guys, I'm going to include a link to this in the description along with some other things that I enjoy. Any links you find in the description are probably going to be affiliate links. They don't cost you any extra, but they definitely help me out at least a little teeny bit when it comes to keeping this channel running. Guys, a lot of these things come straight from the channel budget. CMF, their parent company, nothing, does not know I exist. So this literally was something I purchased off of Amazon. And so it's you guys helping me to give these type of reviews. So any help in that regard is very much appreciated. Guys, heck, if you made it to this point, I know I've been talking a long time. Your time is valuable. Thank you for watching. I very much appreciate you. Take care. Stay safe. I'll talk to you soon.
Get 'em, Jay.